Hey everyone, this latest video is being made for what is considered one of the best Singer sewing machines ever made in the vintage era. And this machine comes in later in the 1950s, and it was launched in the mid-50s as part of a series. They were called the Singer Slant-O-Matics, like a lot of things from that era that use that nomenclature. And this machine was developed because Singer was known for their straight stitch sewing quality, and they had made a few attempts at developing a zigzag stitch, but they hadn't quite gotten it down. And then they introduced this series, and when you look at it, it sometimes might sort of look like a Singer 301, but it's not. It has the same slant shank and slant needle. It kind of moves 10 degrees toward you at an angle to make it easier to see, according to Singer. And but anyway, this machine was Singer's really their sort of the highlight of their zigzag capability at that time. They created a machine that not only does it do zigzag, it does, I think, up to 30 different decorative stitches, and it does it with cams. There are decorative cams, and you'll see the photos, all the accessories. There are quite a few that come with this machine. All the accessories are wonderfully made. But this machine is for those of you who are interested in doing straight stitch, zigzag obviously, as well as decorative stitches. You can do dominoes and pyramids and icicles and so forth. There are tons of different stitches, but the majority of what you will be sewing with will of course be straight and zigzag. Normally I never have time in the videos to cover this, but I wanted to do a bobbin winding for you guys so you could see it, and I think you'll see it right here. Here's my thread, here's my bobbin. Vintage machines are wonderfully simple to use. They're not complicated. You don't have to study anything in great detail, although there is a very well written manual for reference. So what I've done is I've disengaged the needle drive, and with just the turn of one knob over here, I've put my bobbin on, and the bobbin winder is beautifully simple. And I'm going to wind it, and you guys can see I'm sort of going at a medium speed so I can keep my tension good, right where we want it to be. All sewing machines, or most of them I should say, have bobbin winders, but I like those that that work like this on the front of the machine. I find them just quicker to use. Some people would disagree. What I'm doing is I'm winding a bobbin using very high quality German thread. This particular brand I believe is Madeira. Always suggest to people use the best quality thread you can purchase along with the best needles. The difference in price between cheap thread and good thread is usually $1, and it will make a difference to you. You can see my bobbin filling up here. This is what's called a Class 66 bobbin. It was named after a Singer machine that was developed years before, and some of you may call it the horizontal or the drop-in bobbin, and that's what this machine uses. Almost getting to where my bobbin's really full, so I'm going to take it off. And the great thing about this is people vary in what they like. Some people like the convenience of a drop-in bobbin. And I have a bobbin in here. I was doing some test stitching with the machine, but I'm going to take this one out and then put this one in so you guys can see how incredibly easy it is. So I just drop the bobbin in. I come around to a place in the bobbin case where I bring my thread around. And I'm going to shut my little trap door there. And I'll use my top thread to turn my bobbin winder back down and turn that off. I'm going to take my top thread, and of course I'll pull my bobbin thread right up, and now I've got two thread tails. I'm ready to sew. I've got different materials for you guys. I'm going to sew, this machine is very powerful. It will sew all sorts of materials, but I'm not going to do as many of the upholstery fabrics I could if I wanted. It has a very powerful motor, but what I really like using this machine for is garments or quilting, but garments is where this machine really shines. So if you're a garment maker, this is actually drapery material. I've got, let's see, I've got 4 layers here I'm going to start with so you guys can see, and I'll start with a straight stitch. I'll do a long straight stitch, and I've got a lighter thread color, so hopefully it'll show off the stitching well for you all. All machines have a different sound. The Slantomatics have what I call kind of like a turbine whirring sound. Do some back tacking. Your back tacking is very simple. You simply hold up the lever. And this particular one you can leave in reverse if you want. And I'll come back over here. I'm going to do another row of straight stitching, but I'm going to come back up. This is a rotary hook shuttle machine, and as such it makes incredibly short stitches if you need to get your stitches very fine, and the stitches are beautifully straight, as is true of all Singer rotary machines. And I'll pick up the speed here. And like I say, I normally, personally, with my sewing skills, would not sew this quickly, but I'm going to slow it down, and then you can also see I can get beautiful needle control. You guys hear me like a broken record. I love Singers for that reason. It's vintage Singers. Let me come over here and we'll do some zigzagging for you. Singer was not the first company to have zigzag in their home machines, but when they finally broke down and made the investment in the engineering, they did a beautiful job. So I'm going to pull them up, make sure my needle's up. Come over here, make sure my stitches are This was called, back in the vintage era, it was called zigzagging, overlocking stitch. And it was very important because the sewing machine world had gotten very competitive, and Singer had to sort of keep up with the times. Their reputation was excellent, but once they saw that zigzagging was going to be a feature a lot of people wanted, they started embracing it, get that even finer. Now, if you should decide that you want a decorative stitch, you simply take one of the decorative cams and you put it in the top hatch here, and there's a guide in the manual for settings, and you can do them. Many people never use those cams. In fact, most of the cams that you see in the photos that are going to come with this machines have never been used. But if you would like to use them or play with them, they work beautifully. And here you can see, I'll show you the stitch quality. And this is the first row I made, the long, straight, and then the short. Get it up close, there you go. And then you can see the zigzag. Again, Singer rotaries are particularly known for their incredible stitch quality. Now I'm going to come over, and this is where the fabric was actually hemmed. So there were, let's see, 3, 6, 7, 8. This will be, if I fold this in half, I'm actually going to be getting about 8 layers of this fabric. And again, it's not going to be anything for any vintage machine, including this one. But, you know, one of the primary reasons I do these videos, I love talking about the machines, obviously, and sharing their history. But it's really important that you see that the machine can sew, and sew well. And you definitely want to try it out in person before you buy it. So. And sewing right down, probably lighten up on my foot pressure a little bit. And back tacking, and again through what I say 6, 8 layers. It's nothing for a vintage machine because they have so much power. Let's come over here. I'll zigzag again for you guys. And again, you can zigzag through this many layers if you want. And here you can see I've got, again, straight stitching and zigzag. That's 8 layers of sort of a medium weight fabric. And just to show, this machine I talked a lot about garments, but it can do all sorts of things. This is a nylon, a very dense nylon that would be used for things like backpacks. And I've got 2 layers. This is a very difficult fabric for some machines to sew on, but I don't think it's going to be any big deal for this machine. So, and it goes right through it. So, and it should. One of the reasons you might want a vintage machine, and we'll go back to straight so you can see it go through the nylon, is to be able to sew things without, you know, having to get frustrated and worried because your machine, if you have a new one, you know, won't handle the work you're trying to ask of it. So, and here you'll see the green. The white was there before, but you see the green stitching, very strong. And one last thing I'll do, I do this with almost every machine. I have garment leather. People often debate about leather and sewing machines, but again, if you have a lightweight garment leather, and light means you can wiggle it. It's not stiff, it's not like a belt. You want to be very careful. If you may go onto YouTube and see videos, people are selling machines often on eBay and they'll put YouTube videos up, which is great, but they'll show home sewing machines going through like 3 layers of a men's belt or some sort of stiff leather, and that's really, I think that's very unwise. The machines were not designed for that. They're very strong, but you don't want to push something. Most industrial machines can't handle that either. So, so again, these machines can out-sew any of the new ones, but you don't want to sew things like saddles and very stiff, you know, knife sheaths and things like that. But garment leather is fine. I'm going to sew. It should sew right through it. Oh no, my foot, right, there we go. We'll turn around. Had my foot sitting on the pedal funny. Hold on a second. We'll come back. And if you look at the speed, you'll see that the speed was slightly slower than it was through fabric. And I'm using a size 14 fabric needle. I don't have a leather tip needle in for one, which would help tremendously. And I recommend that for any of you who sew the lightweight garment leathers like this, use a leather tip needle. I'm doing this just to show you for demonstration, and I show off a different variety of materials. But here you can see, if you'll notice, the green thread just makes a really lovely stitch here. And again, you get the right leather tip needle, and you should be able to sew lightweight garment leather. So again, guys, this machine is pretty amazing. Again, it uses the drop-in style bobbins, and it has a lot of flexibility. So if you are one of those people that has been looking for a machine that you want to be able to do more than just straight stitching, this is an excellent candidate. It was a very expensive machine when it was new. It's all high carbon, very hard steel inside. It's all metal. The body is aluminum, and that's what helped make it slightly less heavy than some of the other vintage machines from back in the day. So anyway, it includes a beautiful blonde cabinet, 1950s blonde cabinet, and all the accessories you see there. So if you'd like to set up a time to come and test out the machine, let me know. I'd be happy to show it to you. Thanks for watching.